Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Let's talk about some news. And the first item that I want to talk about is a Washington Post article that came out on the 17th of June. It's an article that follows Boris Johnson's trip to Kiev. Actually, pretty much coincides with Boris Johnson's trip to Kiev. It's an article that follows the trip from EU leaders, Scholz, Macron, Johannes, and Draghi, follows their trip to Kiev. And it's an article that kind of goes against the reporting that we've seen out of the collective West mainstream media over the last couple of weeks. The article from the Washington Post has the title, "With Scant Options in Ukraine, U.S. and allies prepare for a long war." The article, of course, relies on those anonymous sources that the Washington Post has in the Biden administration, those very famous anonymous sources. And those anonymous sources are telling the Washington Post, the Jeff Bezos-owned military-industrial complex, neoliberal, war-loving Washington Post, they are telling this publication that the United States is ready to back Ukraine for the long haul. The U.S. and the U.S. allies are going to support Ukraine all the way to the bitter end, and they are not looking for any sort of off-ramp from this conflict. As a matter of fact, the article says that the United States has been preparing for this conflict with Russia for a long, long time. Quote, "While it's certainly challenging, we're not certainly sugarcoating that. In terms of how to navigate these stormy waters, our guiding light is that the outcome of Russia being able to achieve its maximalist demands is really bad for the United States, really bad for our partners and allies, and really bad for the global community," the unnamed official said. They added that the Biden team had discussed the possibility of a protracted conflict with global spillover effects even before February, during a time when American officials repeatedly predicted an imminent attack by Russia on its neighbor. The Post noted that Biden is willing to risk a global recession and mounting hunger in order to prevent Russia from achieving its objectives. Listen to that line. The Washington Post noted that Biden is willing to risk a global recession and mounting hunger in order to prevent Russia from achieving its objectives. Wow. Wow. That's a big statement. So over the last couple of weeks, we have been getting articles from the collective West that appear to be trying to give Biden some sort of off-ramp out of this Ukraine catastrophe. And these articles have been saying that the U.S. military has no idea what the Ukraine military is doing, and that's why the Ukraine military is losing so badly, because the U.S. military is completely in the dark. This was coming out of the New York Times, I believe. The U.S. military is completely in the dark, and the losing from the Ukraine side of things has nothing to do with U.S. military command, because U.S. military command is having to rely on Zelensky's speeches and third-party sources to get some sort of idea as to the strategy and the operations from the military side of things in Ukraine. We've got collective West media posts saying that the Biden White House actually warned Zelensky. Actually, Biden personally warned Zelensky about the Russian invasion before February 24th, but Zelensky, being too dumb, didn't listen to the Biden White House. In Biden's infinite wisdom, they didn't listen to the Biden White House, and they didn't take Biden's warning seriously. We've actually had articles coming from, I think, the Daily Beast, which have actually painted Zelensky in a very bad light. I mean, articles from the collective West that, instead of painting Zelensky as this heroic Messiah figure, like they were doing for the past 3 months, have actually now started to paint Zelensky as some sort of buffoon. We've had those articles. And we had an article just the other day which said that President Joe Biden has been telling Blinken and Austin and other neoliberal and neocon warmongers in his administration to tone down their bellicose Russia is losing rhetoric, because Biden, once again, in all of his infinite wisdom, understands that Russia is winning and does not want to provoke Russia any further, because they would like some resolution to this conflict. So we've had all of these articles in the past couple of weeks which appear to be providing Biden and the Biden White House some sort of off-ramp. We also then had the EU leaders understanding that the Biden White House may be looking for some sort of way out of this mess. We had the EU leaders run to Kiev to try and figure out a way to get out of this Ukraine catastrophe, understanding that the US might be pulling the ripcord. EU leaders did not want to get caught holding the bag, and they went to Kiev, and it looked like they were urging Zelensky to figure out some sort of settlement with Russia before the winter comes. Because the EU leaders understand if things are bad now, just wait till the winter. Things are going to be infinitely worse. So you had all of this activity which pointed to some sort of panicked understanding from the collective West that Ukraine did not work out as they intended, and it's time to find a way out of this. And you even had officials, I believe in the Treasury Department, I'll find the tweet. I will find the tweet and put it on the screen. You even had officials in the administration, and I think the Treasury Department, who have told the Biden White House that, look, the shock and awe sanctions are not working. The economy is a mess. Things are going really bad. Let's figure a way out of this. Because as we head into midterms, the economy is going to worsen if this conflict continues. So you even had people in and around the Biden White House, and I think the Treasury Department, come out with statements like that as well. And now you have the Boris Johnson meeting with Zelensky in Kiev, where Boris told Zelensky, you are not going to end this war. You're not going to find a solution. We are going to escalate. And the UK, well, we don't have money and we don't have weapons because we've been demilitarized by the Russians. So we have no weapons to give. We have no money to give because we're completely broke. But what we can give you in order for you, Mr. Zelensky, to continue to escalate is we can give you the training of troops and the book. Boris also brought Zelensky a book, but as if Zelensky reads. But no, he told Zelensky, look, what we'll give you is training. We'll train your soldiers so that they can continue to fight and fight indefinitely. And now you have the Washington Post article, which is also pretty much saying Biden White House, anyone in the Biden White House that is thinking of getting out of this mess or thinking of trying to find a diplomatic solution to this mess, not so fast. We are not getting out of this Ukraine policy, this Ukraine trajectory. We're going to escalate more, and we are going to fight the Russians until the very end. That is what this Washington Post article is pretty much saying. And the allies are also on the hook because they don't only say the United States, they say the US and allies. There is going to be no de-escalation, only escalation, and there's going to be no diplomatic solution. The only way forward is continuing to fight this war till the very last Ukrainian, and then maybe even further than that. And that's what the Washington Post is signaling. And so, look, I think what you have right now is a very broken up, confused, disjointed collective West as to how they want to proceed. You have forces in the EU that I believe are looking for some sort of off-ramp, talking about Macron. Macron has now come out with a statement saying that he will meet with Russian President Putin if the Russian president fulfills certain conditions. Macron did not spell out what those conditions were, but Macron is on record now saying that he believes it's important to continue dialogue with Putin, to continue to speak with Russia in a transparent way. He used the word transparent, and to try and find a solution to this conflict. he said Russia needs to fulfill conditions, but Macron didn't spell out what those conditions are, because I don't even think Macron knows what those conditions are. I don't think he has any idea what conditions he needs to put in place so that the media spin doesn't look like it's an EU defeat as Macron tries to engage in dialogue with Putin. So even Macron is a bit confused. But my point is that, you have forces in the EU that obviously understand that their economies are falling apart, that understand they have been completely demilitarized, they have no more weapons to give. They're in complete shambles. There are governments in the EU that are crumbling as well, and they're trying to figure out a way out of this. You can say maybe France to a certain extent, maybe Germany to a certain extent, maybe definitely Italy, maybe even Bulgaria is seeing the light, and they're trying to figure out a way out. Remember, Bulgaria just 2 weeks ago said, we don't have any more weapons to give Ukraine. We're tapped out. We're done. So I think you have economies in Greece as well, said we're tapped out of weapons. So I think you have EU countries and economies that are saying we need to find a solution. Then on the flip side, you have EU countries that are all about escalating at all costs. Poland, the Baltics, the Netherlands, Mark Rutte's comments. I was going to say the UK, but the UK is not an EU country, but let's say Europe. The UK. Here you have countries in Europe and in the EU that are saying we are going to escalate at all costs. Take, for example, Lithuania. Lithuania, under the directives of the European Union, has now cut off rail transport to Kaliningrad, the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad, which is part of the Russian Federation. This is Russian territory, but it sits outside of Russia proper. And so Lithuania now has cut off rail transport to Kaliningrad, and mostly this affects construction equipment and construction supplies and materials and stuff like this. So this is a terrible signal that to Russia that there are forces in the EU that want to continue this fight. And the EU is completely disjointed. There is no unification now in the European Union with regards to how to handle this conflict with Russia. And even in Germany, even inside Germany, you have a very weak Scholz, who you can tell Scholz wants out of this mess, but he's being overruled and overrun by warmongers Brabach and Habeck, the Green Party warmongers, who they see the Ukraine conflict as a perfect way to push their green agenda. So they want a war at all costs. They want to escalate because it's only through escalation that they'll get their Green New Deal agenda shoved down the throats of EU citizens. Their goal is deindustrialization of Germany. So even in Germany, you have fragmentation. So the EU's fragmented. They have no idea which direction and which path they want to proceed with regards to this conflict with Russia in Ukraine. And you're starting to see that fragmentation and those cracks. I mean, they're right out there in the open now. We're seeing them. EU leaders go to Kiev. They give one message. Boris Johnson goes to Kiev, gives another. And you have the cracks from the US as well in the Biden administration, where you do have forces in the Biden administration, not because they want to make good with Russia, not because they're peace-loving people, but because they realize they've lost, and they believe that the political consequences of this catastrophe going into the midterms are going to be too high a price to pay. So they want a way out of this. They also see the economy. They see the economic situation, and they're saying, this can't go on any longer. We're going to have a collapse, an economic collapse in the United States, so we need to find a solution for Ukraine. And you have the other forces in the Biden White House, the neocon, neoliberal forces, who are now coming out and openly saying, no chance. We are not pulling out of this. We are in it for the long haul, and we're going to fight the Russians all the way to World War III. and we're going to drag our allies down this mess with us. That's what you have. Fragmentation everywhere, all over in the collective West. They are not speaking with one unified voice. And this Washington Post article lays it out, just lays it all out there. We're in it for the long haul, they're saying. The Biden White House is not pulling out of Ukraine. We're fighting to the very end, and we're going to take our allies down with us. The poor Europeans, the poor European leadership, idiots. What a bunch of fools they are, because they have a choice to tell the U.S., no, we're not going to go down this path with you. You guys want to go down this escalation path? Do it on your own. We're not going to destroy our economies, our people, our entire existence in order to follow some neocon, neoliberal fetish, obsession that they've had with destroying Russia. But the EU leaders are weak. I believe the people in the Biden administration who want de-escalation are also weak. Joe Biden is an empty suit. And I tend to think, and I tend to lean towards the thinking that the neocons and the neoliberal warmongers, the Boris Johnsons, the Victoria Nulands, the Jake Sullivans, the Clinton machines, the Washington Posts, all of these forces are going to win out, and they are going to push the U.S. administration to continue to escalate. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm leaning towards that faction coming out on top, which is not really coming out on top. It's really coming out losing, but I think they're going to win out with regards to policy, but eventually lose out when it comes to a conflict with Russia, whether it's a military conflict or a conflict, an economic conflict as well. So anyway, that I think was the news that I wanted to discuss in this video. I don't really have any other stories that I want to get to be quite honest. The U.S. is considering doubling the MLRS, the HIMARS that they're sending to Ukraine. Instead of sending 4, they're thinking of now sending 8. Okay, 8 more HIMARS that the Russians are going to destroy. We have reports that the Ukraine military continues to shell Donetsk, and that the Russians are now stepping up their efforts to try and break up this well-fortified areas that are shelling Donetsk. We have those reports as well. And there is one interesting story that I could touch upon, which is kind of interesting. We also have the Ukraine top negotiator, what's his name? Arakhamia, who has said that Ukraine is preparing a grand offensive in August, and this counteroffensive, and this amazing counteroffensive is going to destroy the Russian military and push the Russian military back, and that is when Ukraine will come to the negotiating table. Arakhamia said, "We don't want to share our plans with the Russians because they could see them in the open sources, but I think we will conduct counteroffensive operations in certain areas." He says this is going to happen come August, and this is going to be when Ukraine will negotiate. "We will never accept the loss of territory. It's legally impossible, but we could consider a political agreement similar to the one we tabled in Istanbul." In other words, going back to some kind of Minsk Accord, a Minsk Accord that Ukraine didn't follow for 8 years. Anyway, it's complete just nonsense coming out of Ukraine's top negotiator. This guy, Arakhamia, is Ukraine's top negotiator, the lead negotiator from Ukraine. These are his statements. So, escalation is what the neocons and neolibs and the Washington Post want. Escalation is what Poland, the Baltic states, Lithuania, the UK, the Netherlands, that's what they want. Other countries in the EU are not so hot on escalation. There are people in the Biden administration who are not so hot on escalation. And I believe the Treasury Department is not so hot on escalation either. But to sum everything up, I believe the neocons and the neolibs will win out. What do you guys think in the comments down below? Do you think that some people will come to their senses, and those forces with some sense will manage to persuade the Biden White House and the EU to get out of this mess? Or do you think the neolibs and the neocons are just going to keep on going in the escalation direction? Let me know in the comments down below. The story that I did want to touch upon, which is an interesting story real quick, has to do with China offering Russia a lifeline with regards to airline parts. One of the sanctions items, that the actions that really did bite with regards to Russia was Boeing and Airbus and all the sanctions with regards to airline parts. This kind of put the Russians in a bit of a predicament because they weren't sure how they were going to service the Airbus and the Boeing airlines that they had, how they were going to maintain them without airline parts. And this was a problem. This is a problem that Iran has faced, and this was a problem that Russia was trying to grapple with. Well, now it looks like China is coming to the rescue. China is ready to supply Russian airlines with spare parts for aircraft, according to Chinese ambassador to Moscow. That's what he said on Friday. He said, "We are ready to supply spare parts to Russia. We will set up the cooperation. Now airlines are working on this. They have certain channels. There are no restrictions on the part of China." This is what he told TASS. This is an interesting statement coming out of China. It's coming out of the Chinese ambassador. It means it has been vetted by the very, very high up Chinese officials. So it's been vetted. So the Chinese ambassador is saying this because he's gotten the go-ahead, the green light to say this. It shows that China is fully committed to Russia. China may be expecting some sort of second front escalation war with regards to Taiwan. So China is now saying, you know what? We're in it with Russia for the long haul as well. You guys are in it for the long haul with Ukraine and you want to escalate? Well, the Chinese are in it with Russia for the long haul as well. And we are going to support Russia even when it comes to spare parts for airlines. So, and of course, this circumvents the sanctions. I don't know what retaliatory action the collective West will have, knowing that China is ready to provide spare parts, airline spare parts to Russia, but we'll see. Let's wait and see how the collective West responds to this Chinese statement to help Russian airlines out. But it definitely shows that the Chinese are committed to the Russians, as the Russians are committed to the Chinese. And most of the video I was talking about how the collective West is signaling that they're going to escalate and they're in it for the long haul. Well, the Chinese are signaling that they're going to support the Russians for the long haul. And I'm sure the Russians are going to support the Chinese. Whatever may come with regards to Taiwan and the South Pacific, they're going to support the Chinese for the long term as well. So I thought that was just an interesting story that I want to throw out to everybody. Let's do a quick clown world. By the way, you may be wondering where I'm walking around in circles where I am. I'm kind of sitting right next to the elevator of a parking station, which is located right across from the Defense Ministry Museum. The Defense Museum is right over there, and the metro is, oh no, the metro is right over there. So I don't know why I chose this spot. I just came up here and, I don't know what brought me here. I was walking over to grab a coffee, and I said, I'll knock out this video, and I kind of saw this tunnel down here with the graffiti, and I just kind of walked up here. So anyway, let's do a clown world, and it has to do with Trudeau. I said I'm not going to talk about the Bidenopolis bike crash. I'm not going to talk about that. You've seen the videos. You've seen what happens. I've fallen off of my bike and I've crashed my bike many a times. It's not fun. But anyway, this one has to do with Justin Trudeau and a book, a children's book that is now an Amazon bestseller. And the children's book is actually kind of like a Dr. Seuss Grinch That Stole Christmas kind of play on Justin Trudeau. And the book is called How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. And it is the top-selling book on Amazon Canada. The book, A Political Spin on Dr. Seuss, is how the Grinch Stole Christmas satirizes Justin Trudeau's clampdown on free speech through the COOF measures and the invocation of the Emergencies Act to end the Freedom Convoy protest. The story is about the main character, an unnamed Prime Minister, bearing a striking resemblance to Justin Trudeau, who hates freedoms, believes Canadians exist to serve him, and imposes mandates and rules while ignoring rights and people's requests. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let me see. The author, Derek Smith, is a video game streamer on Twitch whose authoring experience is limited to a superhero novel. He began writing political satire with the children's book Let's Go Brandon. Derek Smith, you are a legend. Good on you, and good on Canadians who have pushed this book to be a top seller in the Amazon bookstore. Fantastic. I would say that I would prefer the Grinch to be my prime minister rather than Justin Trudeau. If I had to choose between which one, do I choose the Grinch or do I choose Trudeau as prime minister? I would have to go 100% with the Grinch. I think the Grinch would actually do a better job of managing the country. And actually, I bet you the Grinch would provide more freedoms as well. So yeah, the Grinch definitely wins. Who would you guys choose, the Grinch or Justin Trudeau? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to end this video, guys. I've been rambling on a little too much here. And I'm going to end this from Athens, Greece. I'm going to go grab a coffee, get this video up. theduran.locals.com. Check out Alexandra's channel. Check out the Duran's main channel. Check out the parking station that I was doing this video on top of. It's called Police Park. And I'll sign out from here. Take care.